Today we're going to be discussing a citation that the Illinois Department of Public Health recently issued to Christian Nursing Home in Lincoln after a resident there developed a number of deep tissue injuries from an immobilizer. My name is Barry Doyle. I'm a lawyer in Skokie practicing nursing home abuse and neglect work throughout the state of Illinois. I'm also the author of Built to Fail, a free report available for download from my website, which spells out how the nursing home business model inevitably produces unnecessary injuries and deaths for nursing home residents. Bedsores are also called pressure ulcers, and that's because pressure is one of the main causative factors. In the context of bedsores, this is often caused by the immobility of the resident. However, immobility is not the only cause of pressure on the skin. Pressure can also be applied due to the use of medical devices such as casts or immobilizers. When there is a risk of developing pressure ulcers due to the use of casts or immobilizers, this risk needs to be addressed in the resident care plan. In this particular situation, we had a resident who was admitted to the nursing home for rehab after suffering a fracture to the lower part of his femur or his thighbone. He had been placed in an immobilizer and was in the nursing home for rehab. When he was admitted to the nursing home, he was assessed for his risk of developing pressure ulcers or bedsores, and a care plan was put into place which addressed the general risk of him developing bedsores. However, care plans, when they're done properly, should address the risks that are specific to the health and well-being of the resident. Because this resident was in an immobilizer, a well-done care plan would have included a series of steps or interventions that would have been needed to be taken on a day-to-day, shift-to-shift basis to address the risk of the resident developing skin breakdowns from the immobilizer that was on to help him recover from fractures. However, that wasn't included in this resident's care plan. There was simply a care plan which addressed the general risk of developing bedsores. It was an inadequate care plan. Because the resident was in the facility for rehab, he was also receiving physical therapy and occupational therapy services. Both the physical therapist and the occupational therapist made note that they had expressed concern to the nursing staff that there was some issues with the resident's skin. However, there's no documentation reflected in the chart that the care plan was revised or that any steps were taken to address the risks to the skin of the resident from the immobilizer. There was also no notation of notification to the attending physician that there were some concerns about the health and well-being of this particular resident and the condition of his skin. After a week, the resident developed multiple deep tissue injuries to the leg that the immobilizer was on. At that point, the care plan was in fact revised to address the risk of further decline of the wounds. However, over the course of the next week, the wounds became infected and the resident had to be sent to the hospital. The revision of the care plan after a week was appropriate, but at that point the horse was out of the barn. The resident's skin had broken down, and this particular resident also had underlying peripheral vascular disease or poor circulation to the legs, which placed him at increased risk for having poor healing of the wounds once they developed. Had a proper care plan been put into place, it would have included regular checks of the resident's skin and making sure that the immobilizer was properly positioned and padded to avoid just this kind of skin breakdown. Poor care plans often lead to poor outcomes, and unfortunately that was the case for this particular resident. This was a very avoidable scenario which could have been prevented through proper care planning. I hope you found this interesting. If you have any questions regarding this or any other nursing home abuse and neglect issue, please feel free to reach out to us. Our number is 312-263-1080, or we can be reached on the internet at www.accidentlawillinois.com. Thanks for watching.